Are you ready?
Starting now?
Well, now you just messed it up, you knob. God, you know that the shit that we go through for this, huh?
I know. Fuckers better appreciate it. What's the title of this podcast again?
I don't know. Objects, I don't know. Something with a penis, I guess.
Right.
Right. Popular with the ladies.
Right.
Oh, I'm not even going to apologize because hopefully it sounds fucking hilarious.
Yeah, totally. This is fucking explicit now.
The explicit button. Let me use my finger.
La, 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 la.
It is time for another episode of Sober, Not Mature. And that episode starts now. All right, everyone. Welcome once again to a brand new episode of Sober, Not Mature. And this time I am sitting in Appleton, Wisconsin. Got to spend, for those of you who have never been here, it's actually not a bad little town, about, hour and a half north of Milwaukee. But the reason I'm here is because I was watching my grandson this afternoon and just got that young man to sleep a couple of minutes ago. I just changed my first diaper in 20 years. So when my daughter was leaving, she's just showing me around, whatever, and show me where the diapers were. And she's like, oh, everything will be fine. I'm like, yeah, it's only been 20 years. And she's like, but you were dealing with kids far younger than I was. I'm like, I know, but it's been 20 years.
It's like riding a bike, right?
Yeah. So here's the thing. Yeah, I changed his diaper twice. Didn't get peed on. Didn't get thrown up on. You know, it's better than hanging around drunk people. So.
Yeah. And speaking of which, my granddaughter just left, and my daughter. They both have birthdays about a week apart, and so we celebrate. My daughter's is tomorrow, my granddaughter's is next weekend, and so we went out and celebrated tonight. One of the benefits of being sober.
Yeah, that's the same thing. I'm sitting there when I was feeding my grandson and stuff like this. I was thinking the same thing because when you said you were getting together with Amber and your granddaughter, I was thinking this is like a grandkid weekend, right?
Yep.
But I was thinking the same thing as I'm holding that little guy and looking at him. I'm just like, man, oof. Once again, the gifts, exactly what you just said, the gifts of being sober. So
yep.
Very, very cool.
Or as I'd really like to put it, promises, man, fucking promises.
Yeah, that's what I expect more so. You're right, promises. Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yep.
All right, so got the stats for you if you would like to hear them.
I don't, but I'm sure somebody does.
Well, one way or the other, you're going to hear them too. So, we actually hit 600 followers earlier this week, but we're at 637 followers on Instagram. So picking up there.
Nice. 29 more to go.
Wow, you can do. Wow, you just did math on me there.
I did.
Total plays so far of all the episodes is 429.
Cool.
Top episode still episode 4 with 50. Episode 3, which is your story, and then episode 8 and 3 are tied for 46. And the last episode, so the last one we did just last week is 34 already. So
all right.
This is pretty cool. So we only went up one notch with the chicks. 64% of the women. I know. Believe me, I was watching it all week. It's 63, it's 62, it's 64, and I'm like, come on, man. But so 28% men, 64% women. Obviously the difference in the percentage there is people not identifying. Or no identification. Sure. Still 45 to 59 is 50%. We've got 29% now, 35 to 44 range. And then
money demographic.
Exactly. 28 to 34, 17%. And then the whatever it is, the remaining two is like 1% apiece. So still got to figure out. Maybe what we can do is figure out like a cool term to say every week. just some ridiculous young person term, and then just try to use it as much as possible in an episode.
How about fat with a P? Kids are still saying that, right?
Well, if it were 1990, I think they would be, but yeah, probably.
I don't remember 1990, so whatever.
Right, exactly. Oh, and then I actually wrote down the different areas of the where listeners are. Obviously, the majority of the U.S., the UK, South Africa, Australia, Argentina, Ireland, and Germany. All a very small percentage in those last five, but still, people from all those different areas are listening. So just, I don't know, kind of, again, just fun statistics, if nothing else, even though I hate statistics, these ones I actually enjoy. But other than that, hey, keep listening. Thank you, everyone who's joined in. Thank you for everyone who keeps coming back. We've heard that someplace, and even though I say stick around, keep coming back. So I got quite a few suggestions, and I thought of a few different things over the week. Anything that popped up in your head that specifically you want to talk about, or you just want to jump into some of the either suggestions or thoughts that popped up in mind?
Nah, let's just jump in, man. I got nothing.
Okay. Well, okay. Why did I even expect anything more, right?
It's past my bedtime, so.
Well, this is one that I think you might enjoy. It's about music, and This is one that crossed my mind. And I was just, you and I, obviously, you're more of a what did we decide? A music snob. But you, not only, and you can tell more of your background, you told it in your story, but you played music, you performed it, you lived that lifestyle. But you've been involved in a wider variety of music than I do. But there's a lot of music that, and you make fun of my music sometimes, which is
it's there. I have to.
Right. But the thing of it is there's certain songs that are, I'd never listen to any other songs from that particular band, whatever that might be. But a particular song reminds me of a time or a person, so that that means something to me. And I was talking to somebody about it, and I can't remember. There's certain songs that still like pain me a little bit because they remind me of people who have passed away or past relationships or whatever the case was. But my thought was, is there anything like either music now, or maybe even like while you were getting sober, that had an influence on you or that meant something? Any particular song that, I don't even know, it's a stupid thing to say, but became your anthem or anything like that?
The one that pops to mind is Suicidal Tendencies, You Can't Bring Me Down.
Okay.
And it's been there for a long time. It was there before I got sober, long before, but it's got me through a lot of tough times. And it's Google it, YouTube it, whatever you got to do. It's Suicidal's. It was at their metal stage, not so much the punk stuff, but it was. There's a line in it that I still love. It's sometimes I feel like shit, but I'd rather feel like shit than be full of shit. And there it is.
So there's one song in particular, and for me, and I know I like the band Seether, and the song "Rise Above This," and it was a song that it was popular, probably easily early to mid 2000s, I think, is when that song came out, and so at the time I was. Yeah, exactly. Or damn close to that. So clearly I was still drinking at the time. Right. So at that time, it was just a song that I liked, and I don't remember why it got me. If I just thought that I was being, I think I know what it was. I thought I was probably being wronged by everyone in my life, and I was gonna, I'm gonna rise above this, and I'm usually doing it with a fucking bottle of whiskey that I'm swigging,
right?
But after I got sober, I actually looked up the video. I believe the song, if the video plays out the right way, is about suicide, if I'm not mistaken. But so it's a fairly dark song, but I think it's talking about rising above this person's death. But there's a point in the song, a line in the song that says, "I'll mend this thing before it gets me." And after I got sober, when I was being taken out to the Keating Center, actually, we stopped in Indiana, And
Right.
Kathy's husband, Mark, kind of was looking at me and almost a look of shame after I went through detox and everything like that,
Mhm.
this and that. And I remember walking in there, and what he did, he walked up and he's like, so, because I mean, what I told the doctor was I was only drinking, 3 to 5 beers a day, whatever it was. And it was clearly more than that.
Couple
Yeah,
officer.
exactly.
Mhm.
But I remember him saying to me, it's just he literally walked up, shook my hand. He was talking to me, and I'm just full of shame, and I'm feeling like crap. And he just said, he just kind of pushed me, and he says, "Go fix this,"
Mm.
And when he said it, and again, as that song came up, as I was listening to it, it's like he said, "Go fix it," which clearly I have so far.
Mhm. Mhm.
12 years later, but and then I thought about that. It's mending this thing before it gets me. So I mean, that's like one of my favorite songs, and it has been, like you said, for almost 20 years. But
Right.
there's another one. You'll probably laugh at this one, but
Mhm.
do you remember being in the Keating Center and them talking about alcohol almost being like a lost love or losing a girlfriend?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so REO Speedwagon, which whether you like the band or not, you probably don't, but
Mm-mm.
the the song "Time for Me to Fly," and when it talks about that, it's a love song. It's talking about you made me laugh, or I made you laugh, you made me cry, this and that, the other thing. But before I got sober, it was that one of those songs that used to be like my against my exes. It's like, ooh yeah, 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 yeah.
Right.
But it turned into, as I started listening to the words after I got sober, I'm like, this is me almost like singing a goodbye song to alcohol.
Mhm.
And I've heard a lot of people say that sort of thing. So, and there's a bunch of other songs. I love music. I mean, in general, and every once in a while you listen to some of those ones, and it just hits you like that. But I've talked to, and I know you have too, talked to a lot of people over the years that just, I mean, live and breathe music. I mean,
Mhm.
what's the old saying? I mean, music says what you feel, or words of music say what words feel like, whatever it is. I forget how
Right.
the term goes, but so it just crossed my mind when I was listening to something this week. So, any other songs, or I mean, you've gone to a lot of concerts too. I mean,
I know.
I know music itself do you think that was I don't know, was that a healer for you, getting you back to normal, anything like that?
Yeah, so when you were down here, we talked about it. We were near the minor league baseball stadium. We were dropping my daughter off, and I went to see Alice Cooper there. I was maybe 4 or 5 months sober. I know I had just gone 3/4 right before then, and I went by myself, and probably wasn't the smartest move in the world, and I was a little nervous, but in milling around before the show, watching everybody drink and do their thing, it was a little, I was uncomfortable, but once I got down, I was down on the field. I paid extra for that. And once the music started, you know what? I was fine, man. I was in it. So, yeah. And we started to talk about, if you had a specific recovery song, and you said you didn't. But I do. It's Velvet Revolver's Fall to Pieces.
Okay.
You that one, look it up. It's those that don't know, Velvet Revolver was kind of a super group, a couple guys from Guns N' Roses, Slash and Duff, and Scott Weiland from Stone Temple Pilots, who at the time was sort of sober, and Duff is definitely sober, and Slash is now too. But yeah, it's just the lyric, the choruses alone, I fall to pieces, which is always it's a great musical representation of the we of the program. We can't do anything by ourselves. I know I can't, as much as I like to, and I've tried. I can't. I need other people. Damn it.
Well, and I mean that when you said that, I not only do I love the song. I mean, I absolutely, it's right in my wheelhouse of music. But I
Right.
remember you talking about that at one point, and honestly, I didn't know that Duff and now Slash were sober. I didn't know that. I mean, I know Scott Weiland. I know his story of his ups and downs, and obviously ended up dying of overdose.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I do. I enjoy that song. That was a great group, like you said, super group and collaborations of different people. They put out some, I mean, excellent music together. But yeah, that's a great song. It's a great song.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, it was funny when you and I were talking when I was out there, and I remember that, and like you just said now, because I think I had mentioned that I remember sitting in the group room when and that came up in conversation that you were going to go to the concert. So yeah, it had to have been right after we went 3/4. You did, because I remember other people, you know, but other people saying stuff about it where you shouldn't have went. But the thing of it is, I mean, you talked to your sponsor, you went over everything, you didn't just go.
Right.
So I mean, you know, that in and of itself is cool. But yeah, that 4 months. But you know, the funny thing too, and it just reminded me, right before I moved back to Wisconsin, there was a concert that you invited me and Tom to go, and I think it was Blue Coop. I think Blue Coop was playing in Cleveland. And I remember that you put it up on Facebook, and you're like, hey, I know you don't normally go to bars, and you posted it, and I was going to go, and then I moved. But you know, at that time, I know that would have made me uncomfortable. I was, you know, 3 years and a few months sober, but when you and I went to see Lita Ford when you came up here, which was an excellent concert, but it was a drink fest, and it was a small event. It was at the Harley dealership, and I mean it was Labor Day weekend, and everyone around us was drinking a lot. And you and I just stood there the entire time and enjoyed watching a 60-year-old woman rock her ass off.
Exactly.
But no, I mean, seriously, it was a great show. But yeah, so that's cool. Yeah, I forgot about the Velvet Revolver thing, and before you had mentioned it, forgot about the Alice Cooper thing. So yeah, it's interesting. And I mean, honestly, I'd love to hear from other people, you know, what number one, if music has influenced them, maybe what songs, and you know, how, if nothing else, how it's helped them, you know. So
absolutely.
So the other thing that I thought about, because I don't think we talked about this completely last week, we were talking, kind of touched a little bit, I think it was last week when we were talking about the fourth and fifth step, and the fact that we both went to the priest and all that sort of stuff. And I mean, clearly we both put it off, but do you remember how we got to that point? Was there anything in specific? Because I remember the series of events, you know, to doing it, and I also remember the day I did my you know, my fifth step, and just how, I don't know, how important it was to me. But do you remember anything else leading up to that, with the exception of the fact that we both wanted to stand up and tell our stories?
Yeah, that was it, man. You know, once again, ego driven, even in sobriety. Yeah, we wanted to get up and lead, and our respective sponsors said, well, you've got to finish your fifth step before you can do that, before you can share your story. You know, unwritten rule, there's nothing in the big book about that, but that's what we were told to do, and god damn it, we did it. You know, and I mean, you know, clearly neither one of us are Catholic, but it was suggested that we go talk to this priest, so we did. And yeah, you know, I'm glad I did. You know, I'm also glad I never had to go see the guy again.
Yeah, and you know that. So the funny part, and I remember that we were both, I think we were about 6 or 7 months sober, and I remember both of us, we went and talked to our, and at the time we had different sponsors, but we went and talked to our sponsors and I remember sitting down with mine. First of all, he set up a meeting with me at a bar. I mean, it was a brewery. It was a brewery type restaurant. I don't even remember where it was, and I felt kind of weird. But he actually mentioned to me while we were there, and he goes, "Does this seem odd that we're having this meeting at like a brewery?" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, I wanted, basically what he wanted to show me. He said, it's okay for us to be here. He goes, we're having a conversation. We're not drinking or anything like that. He said, he was teaching me that we can go places. And again, the whole spiritually fit sort of thing, which I thought was, I mean, it was cool, but I felt a little uncomfortable. But I remember sitting down with him like, okay, this, that, going through all these different things. And I said, do you think I'm ready? And he said, It's like a damn psychiatrist. Do you think you're ready? I'm like, I don't know.
Right.
And he's like, and he said, he goes, how much time you got now? And he was cool about that because I think he knew, but he was very nonchalant about it. So he never made a big deal out of it, but always congratulated me and was always there for me. But I said, at the time, 7 months. And he said, well, he goes, I think you're ready as long as you're comfortable to do it. He says, but you got to look at it this way. He goes, there's no rush to this. He said, you're 7 months into a lifelong journey. So he said, if you want to go do it, do it. He goes, I'm all behind you. But he said, then I'm like, okay, so what do I do? And he said, read the big book. And I'm like, oh, what do I do for my 4-step? And he said, read the big book. It's in there. And that pissed me off.
Yeah.
So, but I did, and he told me the same thing. He goes, when you write your 4-step, he said, don't do it on that computer of yours. He said, grab a pen. He goes, I prefer a pencil. He goes, you can use a pen and write it all out. So, both of us scheduled. I know you scheduled yours. Like I said in the episode, mine got pushed off because it was the week of Easter. But I took a day off of work because I was told, well, first of all, I had to finish my 4-step in the morning. And no shit, I finished my 4-step in the morning, went to see the priest at whatever time it was. Let's just say 1 PM. And I don't think I was in there for more than an hour, if that. And
It's about me too. Yeah. It took me about an hour.
Yeah. That short little Irish dude, dark black hair.
Yep.
I mean, seriously, the dude looked like he was going to fall asleep, when I was telling him. But the thing of it is that with every word that came out of my mouth, I felt smaller and smaller because I'm like, oh my God, out loud to another.
We lost you there, man.
Oh, really? Can you hear me or no?
Yeah, I can hear you now. But yeah, you felt smaller and smaller, and then it cut out.
That's how you know what? That's perfect.
That's how small you got.
You know what? Maybe God just shined down on us.
Ooh.
But yeah. But after all said and done, and for the life of me, I had no idea what he said. But he made me feel better. He acknowledged everything that I said, which blew my mind because I thought he wasn't listening. But then gave me a couple of bullet points to follow. So I walked out of there feeling good. And then my sponsor said, so after that, he's like, read the big book on how to handle steps. Well, 6 and 7. So I decided I'm gonna go down to the lake and Cleveland, right by Lake Erie. It was windy as shit. So I got this grand idea that I'm gonna sit out on the rocks and I'm gonna collect my thoughts for an hour because that's what you're supposed to do. And then you perform steps 6 and 7. But it's so damn windy, I can't sit outside. So I'm in my car doing all this stuff. I did it. Then he's like, after all that, call me. So I did all 4 of those steps in that time frame.
Right.
But the funniest part is that when the sponsor that we had together, I think when he first started working with me, we were talking about something. I'm like, oh yeah, I've done this, and I'm obviously I went, I told him that whole story, and I'm like, yep. So I, completed. I think I used the word completed or something like that. 6 and 7. He's like, no, you didn't. I'm like,
right.
Yes, I'm like, no, didn't you hear my lake story? And the whole point was, he's like, well, when you understand what I'm talking about, come back and talk to me. And that pissed me off.
Oh, of course.
But the whole point was for anyone, and if you're not in the 12-step program, I don't know, if you want to look it up, but steps 6 and 7 are things that you should, basically do on a daily basis. And that's an ongoing thing. So I didn't complete them. I got through them the first time, and it's something I'm going to have to continue to do. If I choose, of course, but I do choose to do that and stay sober. But yeah, that whole, like you said, not only being glad that I did, but I felt better. I felt a lot better.
Yeah.
So
well, the 12 and 12 talks about the 5th step. The 5th step is actually the first step you do with another human being. And when you complete that, for me and for a lot of people, doing that 5th step, you become a part of. You're actually working with another human being, and you become a part of something bigger than yourself. I felt like a part of Alcoholics Anonymous.
Yeah, and I mean that is a good point, because up until that point, I mean, the rest you don't. I mean, I know a lot of people do their the third step with the different individuals, which
Uh-huh.
is great. I mean, all those sort of things. But yeah, that's the first one that, again, if you follow the suggestions in the program and all those sort of things, I mean, yeah, that is that. For I never thought about it that way, but I've heard the part about becoming a part of, and I agree
Yeah.
wholeheartedly.
Mhm.
And then the rest of it is just trying to trying to clean up all the people that you completely shit on all those years. So
Exactly. Here's a tissue. Wipe yourself off.
exactly. That's probably just for anyone out there. That's probably the most complete, basically rundown and list of the steps that you're ever going to get out of these two, because
Yep.
we don't necessarily believe in going, well, it's step one, and it's step.
Mhm.
Those are the leads that happen, and it's go on for like 4 hours or whatever they are. But
Yeah,
no,
get
I
a
just
fucking sponsor.
yeah, exactly. You need a sponsor to talk to this stuff about.
Uh-huh.
Next thing too, and this kind of leads back to what you were talking about with the concert and getting back into things and all that stuff. And
Mhm.
you and I have said it sarcastically all the time, but it's something that is talked about in the podcast that I listen to also. But that initial thought of getting sober and thinking that either I'm never going to have fun, my life's over,
Mhm.
anything like that. Did you think about that right away? And I don't know if I did. Along the way I have, but I mean, did you think about
Sure.
that right away as soon as you quit drinking?
No, no, not at all. I I had other things to think about. I wasn't thinking about, when am I going to get to go rock and roll again? It just wasn't. Yeah, but again, it came up fairly quickly. All of a sudden, this opportunity to go see a show happened, and like I said, I probably jumped the gun, but I did it right. Like you said, I talked to people. I made myself accountable, and then I went and did it. And I'm glad I did. And I've been to probably close to 100 shows since I've been sober, and it's wonderful. I remember them all. I woke up in my own bed with my wallet, the next day. There was money in that wallet. Um, yeah, I generally had a T-shirt that made it home with me. Yeah, there were plenty of shows I saw before that I do not remember at all. So
Right.
this is better.
Yeah, I mean, and when Eddie Van Halen died, and I said, at least I saw the Van Hagar version twice, and
Mhm.
that's one that I have up on you, which shocks me. I
Right.
saw. Okay, I was present for two Van
Mhm.
Halen shows.
Right. You were in the building.
Well, they were outdoor events, but yes,
All
I was
right.
in the vicinity. But the thing of it is that, I mean, I remember those shows more than I do a couple other ones that I
Mhm.
went to. But there's no way in the world that I that I got to enjoy either one of those concerts as much as I did like the Foo Fighters. I mean,
Right.
that's the biggest show that I've seen since I was sober. Literally 2.5 hours, I just stood there
Mhm.
and watched and sang and just had a time of my life.
Right.
And it was fucking wonderful, just
Yep.
wonderful. But yeah, the thing of it is, and when we first got sober, I don't know that I thought about not having any fun, but every
Mhm.
time things start coming up in my life, like the first time that I went golfing. I used to drink a lot when I golfed all the time. This is what I
Mhm.
did.
Sure.
And the first time I went, I've been bowling a few times. The first time I went
Yeah.
to a baseball game, the
Right.
first time I went to a football, anything, because I don't know. And we've talked about this before. For the most part, until certain points towards the end, but at certain points when I was just pissed at like my ex-wives at the time, my wives at the
Mhm.
time, I'm just going to go out and get drunk. But
Right.
majority of the time, I never walked out of the house or never walked out of wherever I was living and said, I'm out to rip one on tonight, and I'm gonna drink till I pass out. I mean, that happened, but
Mhm.
that wasn't my intention. So
Right.
um, everything I did, family events, birthday parties, I mean, for myself, for the kids, all these things as they came along. I mean, even going out on a date, being intimate with somebody, all these
Mhm.
things that, I always involved alcohol. And
Yeah.
I didn't necessarily think, how am I going to do this? But I noticed the difference,
Mhm.
But yeah, thinking back now is that you and I joke about the fact that, well, what are we going to do when we get sober? And we think now, I don't know how I had enough time to drink the way that I did,
Oh,
so
right. Well, you let everything else go.
I did not.
I sure as hell did.
How dare you accuse me of something of such nature?
You know, jobs, housing, relationships, sanity. I let it all go.
Yeah, I was going to say, check, check, check. Got all of them. Yep, I did too.
Yep.
But no, I mean, it's I love it, and the biggest thing is like tonight. I came worked this morning at home, and then came up here, and I got here around 2:30. Hung out with my daughter for like an hour or so, and then she headed out. My son-in-law works at a restaurant, so he's probably not going to get home until 9:30 or 10 tomorrow
Mhm.
morning. I'm going to Indiana, so I want to get out relatively early, but still, I'm not going to be up super early, but still,
Right.
I was talking to a friend of mine, and I just told her, I said, I'm just heading back tonight. And she's like, did you think about like staying in the morning? She said she doesn't like to drive at night. I'm like, I don't care. Because the first
Right.
thought is that, I mean, I'm not drinking. I'd rather go home,
Mm-hmm.
sleep in my bed, and rather than having a 3 hour and 45-minute drive tomorrow, I can have a 2.5 hour drive.
Right.
So just things like that, being able to, the things that we're able to do because we don't drink, that I think
Mhm.
about more. That adds to just as much fun as anything else.
Absolutely.
So what about social media? And you and I
What
talked about
about
this
it?
over the years. Well, the part about being in, once again, same thing. They talk about it on podcast. You and I talked about it over the years. I remember it back from the minute I got onto Facebook to even doing what we're doing now.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't use my real name on Instagram. I don't use my real name on this podcast or on our website or anything like that. And there's
Right.
a specific there's reasons for that. Whether anyone agrees with it or not, don't care. But I have reasons for it. Now you're
Mhm.
completely open. So
Right.
did you make that choice right off the bat, or did it just happen? Or curious, that's all.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I made the choice right off the bat. I had lived in the shadows and thought I was fooling people forever, and I just decided, you know what? I don't care. I'm a drunk. Everybody knew I was drunk before I got sober. I don't have a problem letting everybody know that I'm an alcoholic. I will say I don't bring it up at work. I mean, I work pretty much by myself anyway, but my boss doesn't know, and it's fine. If it ever came up where, he directly asked me, did you ever have a drinking problem? I'd say yes, but it doesn't come up because,
Right.
because I show up for work every day. Imagine that.
And you don't drive into people anymore, right?
And no, I never did that.
You talked about that in your story. That's the only reason I brought it up.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, I'm open because I thankfully I don't have anything to hide today.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and the thing that I thought about when, like, first of all, this started in my head right when I was going to start looking for work, because you figure we went into the Keating Center in April, and we didn't start looking for work until August, right? Wasn't it like
Yeah.
end of July, early August?
Mhm.
So now, and at that point, surprisingly enough, I had never had a gap in employment. I mean, I'm
Mhm.
sorry, I had one right before the last job I had. I had a 3 or 4 month lapse, I think, in there, but that was easy enough. I worked for a lawn care company, and we got laid off every winter anyhow. That was easy
Sure.
for me to lie about,
Mhm.
But this time, and I remember sitting down in Phyllis's office and talking to her about it, because at that point, I was all about this whole, going back to the absolutes. I was all about this honesty thing. I'm like,
Mhm.
and I told her, I'm like, how do I how do I sit down for a job interview and I don't want to lie to people, but I don't know what to say. I need to work, but I don't want to lie to people. What do I say? And she goes, you don't have to lie to people. She said, in that circumstance, she said, you were taking care of yourself. She said, think of the proper way to do it. But she said, if you want to blame it on medicals, I think she might have been brought up a medical thing. And then I thought about it, and I did. I came out to Ohio. Well, here's the line that I used to begin with, and I still would use in a job interview is because if somebody says, "Why did you go from Wisconsin to Cleveland, and why is that gap?" If somebody asked me today, I in a job interview, what I said was I came out to Ohio to take care of a sick family member,
right?
Which is true.
Absolutely.
I was the sick family member.
Right.
But then a lot of times it just comes up in natural conversation that my stepdad passed away about a year later, and people assume. I've never had to say anything or say anything. Right. People assume. So that was the first thing. And then honestly, when I first started working like that, I was ashamed. I was still at that point where I still hadn't fully committed or accepted that fact. Now, today, I have no problem. Once I meet somebody, talk to somebody, it's come up with job situations a couple of times where, you meet people and they start talking about certain things, and all of a sudden you're like, you're sober too, aren't you? and somebody hints something, and then, it's like you get in this conversation. But one of the things too is that for a while there, even long before I ever got sober, first of all, I've got even though I'm not unique, I do have a unique last name. Wouldn't take long to find me, and there's not many people with my last name, so that's number one. But on top of that too, the industry that I'm in and things that I've done, just based on certain groups I was involved with on a professional level, I do know a lot of people in the business world. I don't mean that as egotistical as I can be. There's a lot of people that for once, I'm not. It's just a fact. I do know a lot of people in this industry, and I thought it's been my opinion, which in some cases I think it's true. Other cases might be a paranoia, is that I know that everyone has a vision of what an alcoholic or a drug addict is. That I know is a fact. Whether it's a good vision or a bad vision, people have a vision. What I truly believe, and this is my true belief, is that I don't think everyone understands what recovery is and what it means for somebody to be sober. I don't think people realize that. And I think that under certain circumstances, even if you're that model employee and all of a sudden they're like, oh, wait, you're an alcoholic? Well, I've been sober for 12 fucking years, but you're an alcoholic. I'm like, okay.
Right.
So that's the reason I have it. But I'm getting to the point now, and going on Instagram was my opportunity to break that shell a little bit without breaking my own personal anonymity. And then doing this, I mean, Christ, our fucking faces are everywhere now.
Right.
But
you're welcome, ladies.
Yeah. Oh, once again, I haven't said this in a couple episodes. That train's never late. There we go. Thank you, sir.
You're very welcome.
There's just certain, I got to sidestep. There's certain things that you say, and just so everyone knows that, I mean, you make me laugh quite a bit, but there's certain things that just, you can stop me in my tracks every time. And that's some of those things like that. That's, so again, thank you.
You're welcome.
But I don't know. I mean, I'm to that point now where who knows? In the next, I didn't think I'd be doing this. In this, even though I'm not open with my name, doing something this open and this raw, because it is. I mean, we're just letting everything. I almost said it. Letting everything hang out.
Once again.
I just had tears in my eyes. Okay.
Objects may appear nearer than they actually are.
I'm not even going to apologize because hopefully it sounds fucking hilarious.
What's the title of this podcast again?
I don't know. Objects. I don't know. Something with a penis, I guess.
Right.
Okay, so, but yeah, who knows? I don't know that within a year, maybe two or whatever it is that I'm thinking that maybe I will start to open up. This is a step in the right direction. I'm not ashamed, but because I'm thinking about, I could easily end up doing something on a professional level, and if that happens, it won't matter and all those different things. So, but yeah, I mean, it's like I said, you and I are very alike in a lot of ways, but also polar opposites in other ways, and I think it's cool that
Right.
we have these two perspectives, because I think I mean, it's interesting if nothing else. I've learned a ton from you, and you and I don't always say, we don't think the same way, but we end up in the same place, which again, I
Right.
think is kind of cool. So yeah, so that was a thought, just social media thing. And then there was a question that somebody brought up, and they were talking about any favorite quotes. It was just a message that we got on Instagram, whether it be like a recovery quote or anything like that has either something that you've, I don't know, hung on to from the start, something that makes sense to you. I've got one on my wall from Detox, but anything like that has anything to do with, I don't know, just hitting home with you as far as a quote.
One of the big ones for me, and I've actually got it written down on a small piece of paper in one of my meditation books, and actually I pulled it out in group a couple of weeks ago. It's and actually I replied to a friend of ours on Facebook. She had posted something similar, and it's I shouldn't expect what I'm not prepared for, basically. And I shouldn't expect anything out of life that I haven't prepared myself for. It's whatever it is. I shouldn't expect a job that I'm not prepared to do. I shouldn't expect a relationship that I'm not prepared to do my part in. I shouldn't expect anything out of life that I haven't prepared myself for. And I lived for decades of my life expecting everything and not being willing to put the work in to be ready for it. So yeah, that's a big one for me.
I like that, and that made me think of, and I know I've talked about it already, but I think I talked about it already, but that's, well, I mean, a lot of people did, but I know I expected just all this shit to be handed to me, and I didn't want to do the work. I didn't want to do the work for anything. And these days, I mean, if somebody's willing to pay me a lot of money where I could just sit back and not do anything, I'm going to take it.
Yeah.
But the other thing is that I'm gonna take that free time and try to do something positive. So there's a difference,
Right. Right.
If I was independently wealthy or had that time, I'd do something different, to kind of, fill in that time. But I know that, I mean, I expected everything, and then I always had this mindset that I was a survivor, and I wasn't. I mean, I was surviving because other people took care of me, and Kathy was one that did. But I always had the mindset that, and I did. I've gone through, financial difficulties. I mean, 2 divorces and being a full blown raging alcoholic, that causes some issues.
One or two.
One or two, and I, from a money side of things, it happened that way. But I was always one of those things, I'm like, ooh, well, I got through it, and I made it through, and I survived. Well, yeah, Kathy helped me, or my mom helped me, or this happened, or all these things. I didn't get through shit,
Right.
And when I got sober, I still, there's been a couple of times that I've needed help. I'm not ashamed to ask for it. Number one, there's a difference. I don't have to lie about what I need help on, whether it be from, money or this or that. And it's only happened once or twice, but still, I'm not ashamed that it's happened, because if it does, the things that have happened to me in sobriety are not because I'm doing anything wrong. There's circumstances, and maybe I can look back and say, well, if I would have made this job decision versus that one, I don't look back at those decisions as regrets, because I did it to try to better myself. Any type of decisions like that, I didn't do it on a whim, going like, F my boss, I'm out of here type of thing.
Right.
But that's great. I mean, you've, hopefully we're prepared for things, but then again, like you said, specifically, don't get involved in a relationship. That I like too, because same thing, doing your job, relationship, whatever, because relationships, we all know, they could be work, right?
They take work.
So the one that I have, and And I've looked it up. I can't figure out. I have no idea where it came from, but I did this. We did this whole collage thing, which and I actually posted a picture of it on Instagram too. But it just we had to do this collage, and I didn't want to do it. I didn't even want to go to groups in this detox. I was just such a pissant in there anyhow. But so one of the things they don't make this collage. So all I did was randomly cut these pictures out of and sayings out of a magazine or magazines.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember picking this one out. I didn't do it on purpose. I didn't look at it and be like, this is going to be my quote. That didn't happen. But, it's weird because now that I have it and, Kathy ended up cutting it out of this collage and I have it in a frame on my sobriety wall. But it says, I don't want to be on my deathbed not having tried something because it's too hard.
Right.
And I'm like, wow, because seriously, after all this stuff started to kind of flow a little bit better and I was committed to it and starting to do the work, I'm looking at that and I'm like, this is fucking weird because I mean, seriously, I know I didn't make a conscious decision. I could barely see straight when I was in detox, let alone think about this magical quote that I'm going to have. But think about that, not wanting to be on their deathbed. First of all, I was close to death, not doing something because it was too hard. And this is hard, or it can be, So, that's the one. I mean, there's other ones that I run across that I enjoy, any of the ones about gratitude. And I just posted this morning on Instagram, one of the readings on willingness or whatever it was, willingness, gratitude, all those different things, faith and all the things that we've learned. But yeah, man, from a quote standpoint, that's the one for me. But I love that too. And do I know this person? Do I know this person that you got that from on Facebook? Because that sounded familiar.
Yeah. Mara quoted something similar to it, and and so I just threw that one in there in a comment.
Okay, that's who I thought it was because I'm like, she just posted something the other day, and I'm like, I didn't remember what it said, but that sounded familiar. Right. So cool. See, I have half a memory.
Those two brain cells touch each other occasionally.
Man, every once in a while, once in a while. So the last thing, and this just popped into my head because I'm sitting in my daughter and son-in-law's living room, and I pace around sometimes when we're doing this, and I talk with my hands. I'm doing it right now, fucking animated as shit. But there's on the divider between their living room and their walkway to go back to the bedrooms. And it's kind of nice. It's on a little stand, but it's a bottle of wine. And when I just looked at this, it reminded me of, do you remember me telling you that story about Johnny when I was at his apartment using his computer to look for work? Do you remember that?
No.
Okay. So, our cousin, this is, we have one cousin that has since gotten sober, and this is not the cousin. This is our normie cousin. At the time that we got sober, he did a lot for me. Used to pick me up. I used his bike when I was at the Keating Center, all these different things, did a lot for me. And this one time I was trying to look for a job and I didn't have a computer yet. So he's like, he goes, come on over. He goes, I'll come pick you up. He goes, I got stuff to do, but you can use my computer and search on it, this and that, blah, blah, blah. So we get to his apartment and he's got this kitchen with an island and then bar stools on it. And the island comes in an L shape. So, back, the one L part, you can have your back towards the patio, the other one back towards like the living room area, but basically right by his kitchen. So I walk in there and he sets up the computer and I see this on the floor right away. He's got, and I'm not kidding, there was probably 18 to 20 bottles of booze on the floor in no particular order. They're just laying on the floor in his living room. So he picks me up. He's like, here's the computer, whatever. He makes some coffee and he's like, all right, I'm going for a run. And he walks out. And seriously, I'm like 60 days sober, something like that. Maybe whatever, maybe 90 days, but I mean, really, really fucking new. And I'm sitting there at the island, and as I'm looking at his kitchen, to the right of me, I can see all these fucking booze bottles, and I'm really uncomfortable. So I took the bar stool, went around the right to the thing, so my back was facing the booze, and I did my job search. And then he comes back, however long it was, 45 minutes later. And then when he gets back, I'm like, oh yeah, by the way, I said, great move leaving an alcoholic with 60 days sober with this. And he's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And then to this day, if I ever think about it, I bring it up and I'm like, you know what? It's okay. I made it out. It was a good story, but just kind of cracked me up because as soon as I looked at that, because I was standing here, I looked to the right and it just immediate flashback of that. But I mean, all good intentions. He felt for like 3 minutes there, he felt like terrible, but I was just giving him hell,
Of course.
Yeah, unbelievably uncomfortable. But man, am I glad not to have to feel uncomfortable around that these days. So
Exactly.
all right, I believe. Let me just take a peek here. I think those are all my suggestions. What are you up to this weekend? Anything for Mother's Day or?
Now I'm working, man.
That's right. You're working like a mother.
I am. Word to
I'm
your
heading-
mother.
Word to yo mother.
See, we'll get those kids involved.
Yeah. You know what? I think we might. Yeah. Who knows? We could be. There was I forget what sitcom it was. This one of the characters started bringing back sayings from like the 80s and 90s, and these young kids thought they were all brand new. So yeah, she got a whole new group of friends from just saying like old sayings that the kids didn't know. You never know. Maybe it'll work. But yeah, I'm heading down to Indiana tomorrow. I'm coming back tomorrow night because I got obviously shopping and other stuff to do. But yeah. So one way or the other, though. I mean, certainly since we have only 64%, but since 64% of our listeners are women, if you are moms out there, have a wonderful, wonderful Mother's Day. I'm going to get the nice stuff out of the way, and Mike will do the same thing before he, does his little out. And we can be nice every once in a while. But seriously, happy Mother's Day to everyone, and
Yes.
hopefully we'll all enjoy it sober and be good to the people who have taken care of us, the moms that have taken care of us, and
Absolutely.
be there for your kids. So, all right, my friend, it's
All
your
right.
time.
Well, thanks for joining us for another episode of Sober Not Mature. Be good this week. Be good kids. Do the next right thing. Kiss your mom if you got a mom around still. And if you don't, go out and find yourself a MILF. Anyway, we'll see y'all next week. And as always, fuck off.
All right, brother. I love you.
I love you too, man. We'll see you next week.
All right, bye.
Bye.
As always, thank you for listening to another episode of Sober Not Mature. To access all of our content and interact with us, please visit our website, SoberNotMature.com. Thank you again for listening, and we will talk to you soon.